Good afternoon. Yes, it's afternoon. I'm leaving work a bit early, working from home this afternoon. Do a couple things. So, on the way, I thought I would have a chat since I missed it this morning. Today, I've really kind of wondered what I wanted to talk about. And then it kind of hit me. It's been going on in my head recently. Actually, something inspired by our Tuesday game, the one that I play in but don't run. And it's kind of the idea of building real characters. Now, obviously, we know it's a game, we know that it's not real, it's a fantasy world, and all of that. But what I'm talking about is the idea of building characters that have real motivations and real personalities. Now, I've talked about this before, so I might repeat myself on some things, but it's something that I think bears repeating. It's something that I think a lot of people don't consider. And I think a lot of people use it just for the excuse of, oh, well, it's what the character would do. And I'm not in any way trying to just enable kind of that asshole mindset of blaming the character for everything just so that you can be an asshole. What I'm talking about, though, is actually building a character who has motivations, who has tangible reactions that make sense based on their history. And with this, what I'm looking at is, I've talked about the character that I've built in the Tuesday game. He is a fallen deity. He has some issues. He's arrogant. He's self-absorbed. He's living in the past, you could say. But because of the type of deity he was, because of the kind of background he has, something happened in the game that cut through all of that. And it's something that on the surface, if you don't really think about the characters, if you don't really consider how things will affect people, if you don't really think that through, then the way that I changed his role-playing in this instance all of a sudden does not make sense. It seems, on the surface, like I changed his personality, and I never really telegraphed the reason why. I did my very best to explain how his personality had changed, and that he was acting differently, but I didn't explain why he was acting differently. And I think that's important as well, is that it does need to be natural. If the other characters would have no reason of knowing why they're acting differently, don't necessarily right away tell the other players why he's acting differently. Just act differently and leave them to question that. That can become part of the game. So as I said, this guy is arrogant, he's brash, he's supremely confident in himself. He's laid back to a fault. He worries about nothing. And then all of a sudden, we encounter a beached space whale. And he flips out. And the brashness and the bravado and the swagger is all gone. It's just not there anymore. And what is there is concern and desperation and an almost panicked need to be doing something to help this creature. And on the surface, that seems bizarre. This is a guy that, for the most part, has no problem just randomly shooting people. He is not that bothered. He just doesn't care. You know? They're not important. It's just some guy who cares if I shoot him or not. Either I shoot him, or I don't shoot him, or maybe I don't shoot him today and then I come back tomorrow and shoot him, and what does it matter? But all of a sudden, this whale, this space whale, he's like, desperately, we have to save this thing. I don't care about any of the rest of it, just save it. I don't care how you do it, I don't care what you do, just, if you can't do something here to help, then go find someone who can. And it was a fundamental shift in this guy's personality. And that's because if we actually kind of feed in the backstory of this guy was one of the deities that was involved in the creation of space. The creation of the spheres and the pathways between them, the phlogiston, the stars, the kind of the rainbow rivers, all of that kind of stuff. He was involved in that. He was part of that. And when you think about the fact that he was part of that, that means he was around for the beginning of that. Now, space whales are among the oldest spacefaring creatures. They were flying through space before elves, before dwarves, before humans, before Illithid, before Arcane. Before any of that, these whales were out there. So, to the guy that built space, to the guy that was part of putting those paths together, these creatures were the ones that pioneered. I mean, obviously there are other things like the Spelljammer or things like that, but these are some of the earliest creatures out there. These creatures, because of that, were precious. They were a reminder. They were a part of that past. They were They were a part of that divinity that he had left behind. You know, their lives are far longer than any of the other kind of civilized races. They are beings born for space. Excuse me. So yeah, these creatures, in short, and actually he ended up saying it to one of the other members of the crew at one point, these creatures meant more to Daz, to this fallen god, than any of these people around. Yeah, humans found their way into space, and they fly around in ships. You know, dwarves lift big rocks off planets and float around. They travel through space. Some of them might even claim space is their home. But in reality, we really know it's not. Space isn't their home. Their home is a planet. And even in the case of if they are born in space and live in space and die in space, it's because they're still taking some aspect of a planet with them. Whether it's a ship made of wood or a citadel made of rock and stone, they're in space, not because they can be in space, but because they have found a way to take part of a world with them. The whales don't need that. The whales live in space. It is their home. And as such, they meant something to him. They meant something to the guy that didn't care about anything. And that's why his personality changed. Now, the game progressed. Things went sideways. We have a member of the group who is using a homebrew prestige, a homebrew warlock type that basically has access to the power of the great old ones, but they access it sometimes at a cost. And he tried to help. He genuinely did try to help. He rolled for his help and basically failed miserably 3 times. And in doing so, he indirectly, through his actions, caused this creature to have to be killed by our party. Basically, he inadvertently summoned something that corrupted the creature, caused the creature to attack us, and caused us to have to kill the corrupted creature. So now, Daz, who cherishes these whales more than any sentient life, who values them above these beings he's traveling with, not only has this creature not survived, not only has he not saved it, but he's had to kill it. And he's still processing that. Now, he's not an idiot. He does understand that this person did not intend harm. But that harm was still caused. And at one point, the player of that character actually said, "Look, I'm rolling up a new character. I get it. You're going to kill him." And that wasn't me as a player wanting to kill him. Me as a player was laughing my ass off at all of the bad rolls. But Daz as a character came very close to just shooting him in the head. As it is, Daz has not really spoken to him since, has not really interacted with him since, has just kind of cold-shouldered him. The couple times that he might have said something, it's been very to the point, blatant, bland, just this is the answer to go. Because that's how he would be. Now, some other events have then happened. They've actually received a magical item that is blessed by Ali tomorrow. And things are progressing. The character is getting back to that kind of happy-go-lucky, not caring about anything persona. Because it is a persona. It's something that he puts on. It's not actually him. But he's getting back into that persona, back into that character. But now I'm exploring how is that going to affect him going forward? How is this moment going to alter that persona? Is he going to be able to put it back on fully? And this is what I mean about building a real character. I'm not saying I'm not, as a player, dictating this is going to change him in this way. This is going to change him in this way. I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking, okay, if this guy existed, if I knew this guy, and he was telling me about these things that had happened, what would I expect to see him do next? I'm building a real personality around him, rather than just dictating for story purposes or for metagaming purposes or whatever else. What I think I want to see happen, I'm actually thinking through what reaction to a character like this would have. So there we go. Bit longer than normal today, but something I wanted to cover, something I have, like I said, talked about before, but something that I think deserves a lot of attention. A big part of good role-playing is building good characters. It's not necessarily the voice that you put on or, how you narrate the scene. That stuff does help, and that stuff does come with time. But you can have the best voices in the world, and you can narrate the scene wonderfully, but if you've got a boring character, it's still going to suck. So think about that. Start with the character. Anyway, like, subscribe. I do appreciate that you guys stick with me, that you watch. I always love seeing comments when they pop up. Have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow with another Disney video. Bye-bye.